Bitcoin does move off of liquidity. We know that. And like I said, it's because it's being treated like a risk asset. So as liquidity expands, Bitcoin follows. It lags by about 3 months, somewhere around 2 or 3 months. And so we saw liquidity drained at the end of last year. And so now it's coming back up, but Bitcoin's it's still lagging. It still hasn't, if you chart them against each other, it still hasn't reached that bottoming out on liquidity. When after it does, it will start to rise again. Maybe it has gotten pretty close here in the last couple days. But so that is important for there to be liquidity. I mean, let's just face it. There's no long-term liquidity will go higher, the money supply will expand. That's just reality. There's just no way in our debt-based system that we could sustain this without having a debasement of the currency. That's just the truth. So we will still see the expansion of money supply and Bitcoin price going up, alongside that. So that's just the reality. Looking at that liquidity and what we need for Bitcoin to kind of reverse course here, and all of those other catalysts that you talked about, and I've talked about, the tailwinds. Well, one of the biggest one, like you just mentioned, is the full repeal of SAB 121. So this is an accounting bulletin that the SEC put out, and it was a very strict bulletin advising banks and financial companies on how to treat Bitcoin, and it basically warded them off from holding it as an asset at all, and basically said it would be treated as a liability, and so really difficult for them to do anything with it, and so they just avoided it. That's why you had so much choke point 2.0, because banks and financial companies, institutions just didn't want to deal with it. That's all been changed. So last year, the SAB 121 was repealed by Congress. It was passed to be repealed because it didn't make any sense. It was kind of like an end zone run by the SEC, where it was oversight by enforcement, and that was just, it's just wrong. And so the legislators were like, this is our job to come up with the laws and the rules. It's not your job as the SEC to just decide what you want to do and do an end zone run. So no, we're repealing it. And you got out of bounds, Gensler. And so it went to the president's desk, and as promised, he vetoed that. He vetoed it because this last administration, the Biden administration, was incredibly antagonistic to the crypto and Bitcoin ecosystem and community. They planted their flag and opposed them. And I don't know if it was because of the noise coming out of Elizabeth Warren's camp or her anti-crypto army or whatever it was, whether she's in the pocket of the big bankers, that they didn't want Bitcoin because they know that it can be disruptive to their business. Whatever it was, they weren't ready for it. They went along with it, and he vetoed that repeal. Well, enter this year, and you have Trump, a new administration that is clearly very Bitcoin friendly and crypto friendly. And suddenly the SEC, they just strike the bulletin, abandon it, and now it's no longer in force. And so now the banks, this is the big deal, is the banks can actually hold Bitcoin as an asset and build products around it. They can build lending products. They can build collateralized products. They can do things that they couldn't do before. And it's a really big deal that if you have Bitcoin and you can work with your bank, whether it's JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or Chase or Citibank or whatever it is, you can work with them to use your Bitcoin as collateral for things, or they can create collateralized products or lending products for you. It's going to be a big deal, really big deal, because I know there are a lot of Bitcoiners out there who sit on a massive amount of Bitcoin that they don't want to sell, but they want to somehow monetize to use in their favor. They don't want to pay the taxes on it. They don't want to get rid of it, but they want to find a way to use it and benefit from it. I think that's going to be a huge deal, and eventually it'll trickle down into things like mortgages and loans against them, and using Bitcoin in residential mortgages for collateral. So you don't have to put up your 20%. You can put up 10% cash and 10% Bitcoin or something like that. And it's going to be, I think this is going to be a big deal for both consumers, but really a big deal for the banks. They're going to be rushing to get these products out later this year as they get their head around and get their teams around this. And so I think it's going to be a really big deal. And so what does that mean? Well, it just continues to march down that institutional adoption road, where you have institutions are embracing Bitcoin in particular, and they're going to be using it to build products and sell products to people. Is it in the best interest of Bitcoiners to go and have banks in control of this stuff? No. But does it help institutional adoption? Yes. And if that's the case, then ultimately it's good for Bitcoin adoption. It's just a philosophy of whether or not you want institutions involved. It doesn't matter. They're getting involved. It's a big deal for Bitcoin price, in my opinion, and that will affect it over the course of this year and the next year. Even though it's down here under 80,000 today, I actually see this as a huge opportunity for my fund to go and get exposure in places that will give me more upside in this Bitcoin ecosystem, because of the price being depressed here. I think it's a little bit of a gift for us. But again, I'm a long-term investor. I take a very long-term view on this, and I'm optimistic about the future of it.
Yeah, well, that's so well said. I feel the exact same way. I think it's a good segue. You made me think of Tether, stablecoins, and obviously Lutnick. Like these guys, clearly a lot of the cabinet owns Bitcoin. I mean, dang near all of them, I think. And so, number one, the beauty of people always, well, you guys are pumping your own bags. It's like, well, you're free to join the network, right? Like that's the beauty of Bitcoin, and it's not a zero-sum game like fiat. And that's what the true beauty of Bitcoin, that everyone can jump on that trade. Everyone can throw a few dollars and invest and save in Bitcoin. So that's the beauty of it, number one. But I would love for you to get your thoughts on Tether, stablecoins, extending dollar dominance possibly. So your thoughts on that, but also it just makes me think of BRICS and getting your thoughts on that. And I can't help it. It seems, is there any credence to these guys setting up some type of, like, are we in a Bretton Woods right now in a way? Like, will we look back in 10 or 20 years and look back now and be like, wow, we were in a monetary transition where these guys were setting things up against gold, right? You have gold and silver making moves, and you have Bitcoin now coming into the foray. It feels a lot like where I'm going with this. It feels a lot like Blockbuster, the Innovator's Dilemma, where you had Blockbuster and Netflix, and Blockbuster or Kodak, those guys chose not to innovate and fire themselves and improve their companies because they're like, you know what, my old technology, the dollar, is still going to be good. It's still going to be good. But now you have these guys who seemingly look like they're very forward thinking in the sense of, are they playing 5D chess where they are positioning with stable coins, Bitcoin, gold to revalue the dollar and extend the dominance of the dollar in the American empire, whether we all like it or not? Does it feel like that? Because to me, from the outside, very outside, it kind of looks that way.
If you want the answer to that question right there and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Do it.